this is Isabel. So today I want to talk about part-time work because it's a growing trend in Switzerland. Right now we're at 36% rate of part-time workers and going up. So I thought I'd make a video for my viewers so that you can position yourself, whether it's something that would be right for you or not. So the first tip I want to give you today is basically how to grow a career with part-time work. Is this something that's a good thing or etc. So I think you have to look at it as where you're positioned. What's your age, where you stand right now in your life. I mean, there's different stages in a career. So the first one would be in your 20s when you're growing your career. Mid-career, people who are basically thinking about transitioning to something different. And then you have the close to retirement. So based on where you are right now, where you stand, it could be or not a good idea. So I would have to look at your individual profile and do an analysis with you to see where you stand. What's your best bet? Because again, for some industries, they would probably prefer someone who works full-time and it makes more sense for the business than someone who's a part-time worker. So the amount of hours you want to work as an individual and you choose to work will have an impact. So that's why it's very linked to your personal values as well and what you want to achieve in this life. Because if you say, well, there's only part-time work available, so I'll go for it by default, it may affect you in a negative way if you're looking for a career in something where full-time work is valued. So for example, in very senior jobs, for example, most of the time they prefer people who are full-time because they're more reliable. Again, this is changing the view now, reliability being connected with presence, but it's still quite deep in the culture in any country actually, that the time of presence and the full-time work is still more reliable, especially for the senior jobs. People tend to be permanent full-time workers. So again, based on what it is that you want to do, the type of work that you want to do, just be aware that the image is still there, that full-time work is actually reliable. And if you want to go in the senior levels, part-time work might not be taken as seriously. I'm not saying it won't be taken seriously, but still old ways die hard. So that's number one. Number two is why you should choose a part-time job, in which kind of circumstance, what are some of the good reasons to work part-time. So the best reason I can think of, and that's usually what I talk about with candidates, is if you want to re-enter the market. So if you've been away for a long time, you're having a hard time finding a job, one way to re-enter is just to take a part-time job, at least to put your foot in the door, knowing that it can always increase to something with more hours, and even maybe you find out there's a full-time job available, etc. The second reason is to have work-life balance. So if you get to a point in your life where you are getting a little bit tired of the long hours and you feel like you would have a greater time in your life, greater benefit, health benefits also of working 80%, I think it's also a new trend now. A lot of executives even or senior managers are saying, we want to have this one day, maybe to start a business, maybe to do something different, a hobby, or, I think people don't want to, maybe like our older generations, people made it until the last day of their, before their retirement, full-time permanent. I think now people are saying, I want to have my last 10 years of my career as working a little bit slower. I mean, not completely slow, but they want to have this one day away from the office to do something different. So that's another thing. And finally, a good reason is to go part-time is if you have a plan to go and work for sectors that only recruit part-times. So if you're transitioning now, you want to go into, let's say, the health sector, or you want to go in NGOs, a lot of those jobs are going to be part-time. So that's something you should also research before you make a career transition, is the type of work that you will find. If you're saying, I need to have money, that's my main need right now, I need salary, then going into NGOs may not be the right thing, because a lot of those jobs will be part-time and therefore you will have less income. So you just need to know what's your most important thing. Now, if you're saying, I want to find now a little bit more of a mission behind my work, I've worked 20 years in finance, I made lots of money, but it didn't really bring me this mission type of feel to it. So now I want to find something a little bit more reliable, reassuring, and a little bit more human. So going into NGO could be perfect. And again, this type of work is part-time usually. So just be aware that some sectors will only recruit part-time. So you just have to weigh that out with your financial needs, and check. Again, the two that I can think of, NGOs and the health sector. Sometimes medical field hires a lot of part-time, especially nurses and health workers. And thirdly, it's a growing trend, part-time, and you also have other alternative work arrangements that are growing. So in the future, we'll see more and more job sharing, working from home. Again, this is not completely developed yet. It's a trend. A lot of companies are not ready for that yet. So you just have to know that even if you would love to work maybe a little bit more work from home than what you have right now, or you would like to do job sharing, I think this is also something a lot of people would like to see in companies. But depending on who you're targeting, the type of company, may or may not be something that happens. But I think it's our responsibility, each one of us, to also have an influence on the work that we do and on the environment. So it's not just waiting until the companies release those new work arrangements, but it's also influencing by explaining why it could work and what value the company would have. So if I take the example of job sharing or working from home, some of the benefits that I can think of is definitely for the first one, job sharing, you can definitely have two people work part-time. So it's great because two individuals are able to have a part-time schedule and have a job. And the other one, working from home, it's a great way to resolve the traffic issues. Also, maybe you don't need to rent as much office space if some of your workers are working from home. So there could be some real business benefits besides making people happy that maybe they have a couple of days work from home. So I hope this video was helpful. As usual, feel free to comment, give your perspective on the topic of alternative work arrangements. I'd be curious to hear about them. Thanks.